Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devem Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Translations. This is a very ancient congress. One should have respectful obeisances unto the best saint of God and unto Narayana Rishi, unto Mother Saraswati, Goddess of Land, unto Shivasana, by regular attendance in classes of Bhagavatam, and by rendering his service, all that is troubles to the heart will be destroyed, and loving service of the Son of God, which praise and constant songs, is established. All right, so we're reading from Canto 3, chapter 12. What are the verses in chapter text 20? 21 to 33. So these sets of verses. Do you mind turning on the light? Actually, it's kind of dark. So yeah, there are different personalities who are originating from Brahma at this point, and then Brahma has a he basically has a fall down. Brahma just gets really bewildered, and that's what we're going to talk about. And I was reflecting on it. Yeah, this Brahma is like the original spiritual master in our line, and he has this he basically gets totally bewildered, like really bad. It's so bad that actually, in India, when you go to India, there's so many temples for all kinds of demigods. Like there's a demigod for the stomach, there's a demigod for the nose. They got temples everywhere, but there are no temples for Brahma, and it's because of this. There's only one. There's only one temple for Brahma in all over India. It's nowhere else. That's because of this one fall down that he had. So it was that intense. But he had this whole redemption after that fall down. So it's very blessed. It's very hope giving for all of us. All right, so let's start reading with verse 23. Right? Sorry. Sure. All right. Good. Somebody.
Powered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thought of generating living entities and begot 10 sons for the extension of the generations.
Arichi, Atri, Angriya, Palastra, Hulaha, Kratu, Ruruk, Vishda, Daksha, and the 10th son, Narna, were thus born.
The deliberation of Brahma, which is the best part of the body. Vashishta was born from his breathing, Daksha from a thumb, Rigu from his touch, and Kratu from his hand.
Pulastya was generated from the ears, Ankira from the mouth, Arti, Atri, the eyes, Marishi from the mind, and Pulaha from the navel.
Religion was manifested from the breast of Brahma, wherein is seated the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. And irreligion appeared from his back, where horrible death takes place for the living entity.
Lust and desire became manifested from the heart of Brahma, anger from between his eyebrows, greed from between his lips, the power of speaking from his mouth, the ocean from his penis, and low and abominable activities from his anus, the source of all sins.
Sage Kardama, husband of the great Devahuti, was manifested from the shadow of Brahma. Thus all became manifested from either the body or the mind of Brahma.
O Vidura, we have heard that Brahma had a daughter named Devak, who was born from his body, and who attracted his mind towards sex, although she was not sexually inclined towards him.
Thus, finding my father so deluded in an act of immorality, the sages headed by Marichi, all sons of Brahma, spoke as follows with great respect.
So it's interesting to note that even though it was, what he did was just so intense, they still spoke to him with some great respect. Go ahead.
O Father, this performance in which you are endeavoring to complicate yourself was never attempted by any other Brahman, nor by anyone else, nor by you in previous kalpas, nor will anyone dare to attempt it in the future. You are the supreme being in the universe, so how is it that you want to have sex with your daughter and cannot control your desire?
Even though you are the most powerful being, this act does not suit you because your character is followed by spiritual improvement by people in general.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto our personality of Godhead, who by his own effulgence, while situated himself, has manifested this cosmos. May he also protect religion for all goodness.
Father of all Prajapatis, Brahma, thus seeing all his Prajapati sons speaking in that way, became very much ashamed and at once gave up the body he had accepted. Later, that body appeared in all directions as the dangerous fog in darkness.
Yeah, that's the last verse. All right, so let's go to the verse 31, I believe, right? Okay, sure. Whatever it's there. All right, 28. Vacham duhitaram tanvi swayambhur haratim mana akamam chakame shatta sakama iti nashruta vacham duhitaram tanvi swayambhur haritim mana akamam chakame shatta sakama iti nashruta vacham duhitaram manve swayambhur haritim mana akamam chakame shatta sakama iti nashruta. Vacham duhitaram tanvi swayambhur haritim mana akamam chakame shatta Sakama idinashata Vacham Dvaitaram Tambe Sayambu Anyone else? Right, let's do the word to it together. Vacham Dvaitaram unto the daughter. Tanvi, born of his body. Swayambhu Brahma. Arti, fact. Mana is mind. Akama, that being sexually. Chakame, desire. Shata, Ovidura. Sakama, being sexually. Iti, thus. Nya, Rutam, translation. Srila Prabhupada. O Vidura, we have heard that Brahma had a daughter named Vak, who was born from his body and who attracted his mind towards sex, although she was not sexually inclined towards sex. Would like to read the purport.
Kalavan Indraya Gramo Vidvamsam Apikarshati. It is said that the senses are so mad and strong that they can bewilder even the most sensible and learned man. Therefore, it is advised that one should not indulge in living alone, even with one's mother, sister, or daughter. Vidvamsam Apikarshati means that even the most learned also become victims of the sensuous urge. Maitreya hesitated to state this anomaly on the part of Brahma, who was sexually inclined to his own daughter, but still he mentioned it because sometimes it so happens, and the living example is Brahma himself, although he is the primeval living being and the most learned within the whole universe. If Brahma could be a victim of the sexual urge, then what of others who are prone to so many mundane frailties? This extraordinary immorality on the part of Brahma was heard to have occurred in some particular kalpa, but it could not have happened in the kalpa in which Brahma heard directly from the Lord the 4 essential verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, because the Lord blessed Brahma after giving him lessons on the Bhagavatam, that he would never be bewildered in any kalpa whatsoever. This indicates that before the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, he might have fallen a victim to such sensuality, but after hearing Srimad Bhagavatam directly from the Lord, there was no possibility of such failures. One should, however, take serious note of this incident. The human being is a social animal, and his unrestricted mixing with the fair sex leads to downfall. Such social freedom of man and woman, especially among the younger section, is certainly a great stumbling block on the path of spiritual progress. Material bondage is due only to sexual bondage, and therefore unrestricted association of man and women is surely a great impediment. Maitreya cited this example on the part of Brahma just to bring to our notice this great.
Oh my God, I'm read this second. So yeah, the whole, as Prabhupada said, the whole material universe, it just runs on sense gratification. That everybody is out there to enjoy, just somehow satisfy their various senses. And the original thought of the living entity was like, in the spiritual world, we were there and we thought, well, why should Krishna have all the fun? Like, I want to have my own little space, and I need my space. I'm going to go to the material world. And so here we are to enjoy our various senses. And the topmost expression of love in the spiritual world is of the gopis to Krishna. The gopis have selfless love for Krishna. And so they have this conjugal, this romantic relationship, Radharani and the other gopis. That's like the topmost relationship one can have with God. It's, love and romance with Krishna himself. And it's not an ordinary thing. It's not something that can't be taken lightly or cheaply. And so what are the 5 kind of relationships that one has with Krishna in the spiritual realm? Friendship. What else? Service. What else? Parental. Neutral. Well, that's more like secondary. Yeah, romantic. Yeah. So these are the 5 primary relationships that one can have with Krishna in the spiritual realm. There's neutral, where it's just, just kind of there. Even the rocks in the spiritual world, they're alive actually. They have a relationship with Krishna. So you might be a rock in the spiritual world. And so when you're there and Krishna looks at the rock and look at Krishna. The gulab jamun is alive, the gulab jamun, and Krishna eats you, and then you're back again, and then eats you again. Sounds like purgatory, but but it's still joyful. So many things. Yeah, everything in the spiritual world. The door is alive. It's a smart house in the spiritual world. What's it? It's a door. So yeah, everything basically has a soul in the spiritual world. And so yeah, there's the neutral, and then there's service. Dasya, where you serve Krishna, and then there's friendship, where Krishna has friends, and then there's Vatsalya, parental, where Krishna has his parents and other gopas and gopis and uncles and aunts. So parental relations with Krishna. And then there's the topmost, where it's conjugate, and it's topmost in the sense that it's the most intimate. And in one's life, one's spouse is like the most intimate person you can have in your life, right? You share your intimate emotions, you share so much with your spouse. So the same thing, because it comes from Krishna, from that relationship, that conjugal relationship Krishna has with Radharani and the gopis. And so that's the topmost thing. And what's the description of the material world in the 15th chapter of the Gita? Yeah, it's a reflection. Yeah, it's a reflection. It's an upside down tree, basically. So it's describing the Gita that the roots are on the top and the leaves on the bottom. So it's like totally upside down reflection of the spiritual realm. So whatever is the topmost thing in the spiritual world, in the material world, it's like the lowest thing. It can be the perverted reflection of it is like the lowest. And so in that sense, having a strong sexual desire to enjoy this world and another person can be very entangling. When that's like the sole purpose, like I really want to get all my enjoyment from this one person or many persons, yeah, from bodies. So that is what really solidifies the idea that this world is for me to enjoy. There's nothing else beyond this world, and I'm going to do my best to enjoy this. And sex life manifests in different forms, different subtle ways, and just the idea is that one just really wants to, get the most enjoyment out of this one thing, whatever it may be in this world, be it a person, be it a post, be it a like a post, like a power, like a position somewhere or something of that sort. And whatever it is, so one wants to get the most out of it, fame, prestige, and so forth. All that is also actually extension of sex life. So, but that's why it is so entangling, and that's why there are sections in the Srimad Bhagavatam where it's there to really put it in perspective. That it actually can be so entangling when one is totally engrossed by that desire. And it comes from the spiritual. That's the thing. Everything comes from Krishna. So sex desire does come from Krishna. And there was a lecture. I don't remember who was in the class, but the speaker said that there are no monks in the spiritual world. Yeah, and it's like, wait, well, there are no monks there? Like, yeah, it's all actually all families. In Vrindavan, it's all families. There are kids, and then there's Krishna, and then the gopas and the gopis, the uncles and aunts. They look forward to seeing Krishna every day, and so it's like, well, if sex desire is so abominable as the Bhagavatam says, then why the spiritual world should just be full of monks, all those little brahmacharis, going in saffron everywhere. There's Krishna and the brahmacharis. One would think that, right? But actually, there's purified sex desire, where the whole idea is that there is enjoyment, but it's for Krishna, and we are here to serve Krishna. That's the original position of the soul, where we are there to serve Krishna. And yeah, there are couples, that are husband and wife, and they have a relationship, but it is totally revolving around Krishna. That we are here together, we have a relationship, but it's in context of Krishna that yeah, we are here to serve Krishna. So that's there in the third canto, I believe. I don't know which chapter, but there is a description of the Vaikuntha planets. And yeah, there are, there even in the other, there's Vrindavan, and then there's other spiritual planets where there's Vishnu, and there's different entities that look like Vishnu, and they have their consorts, they have their spouses, and they're there, worshiping Vishnu and serving Vishnu. And there's a description where Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is mopping the floor in the Vaikuntha planets, and Prabhupada asks, like, he says, "There's no dust in the spiritual world, So like, why is she cleaning the floor?" And he says, "Well, because she wants to do service. That's why she keeps cleaning, And she's the goddess of fortune. So the same idea that the main principle is that the devotees in the spiritual realm are in so much love with Krishna that they want to serve Krishna all the time. So the sex desire is there. It's just the purified sex desire where Krishna is the enjoyer, and we are there to serve him. And so the polar opposite of that, like, I am here to enjoy, and everybody is meant for my enjoyment. And they must do things that please me. They should never do anything that displeases me, because guess what? It's all about me. And I have the mic, so. And so it's that, that's the mentality. What happens when one has that mentality that it's all about me? What happens generally to that? Or
Yourself person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would say usually the person can become quite isolated and lonely.
Yeah.
They can't play nice, so no one wants to play with them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So similarly, their relationships are not very deep because people realize they're just all about themselves. They don't care about anyone else.
Yeah. What else? I think else when someone's really consumed by just themselves. Develop narcissistic tendencies. Yeah. Right. Generally leads to frustration, because guess what? You just can't control everything. I mean, you can control maybe one factor in this world, maybe two, maybe three. When it's more than three, we should have a mathematical formula. When n is more than three, then you cannot control anything. Yeah, sometimes you can't even control one factor.
Actually,
Yeah, action, attitude. That's good point. That's all you can control.
We were talking in my class 2 days ago about 1 in 7 people are narcissists on the narcissistic scale. 1 in 7 people.
Wow, that's a big number. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See you, bro.
So the narcissistic person, or the person who's, everything is about me, winds up really abusing others for their own, exploiting other people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So
then they wind up with huge karmic backlash. So it's very dangerous way to go.
Yeah. And so all of us, we have it to varying degrees, how much everything's about me. I mean, there's definitely times in my life when I'm just so upset because not everybody on the planet's, serving me and pleasing me. And then I realized that it's not supposed to be like that. And then some sense comes back to me. But yeah, it's just we have it to varying degrees, like the controlling feature, the enjoyment feature, and all that comes from Krishna. It's because we are actually a part and parcel of Krishna, and He's the supreme enjoyer. So we have that. But at the same time, since we are a tiny part and parcel, we are supposed to serve Krishna. Now, real enjoyment comes in serving Krishna and not trying to take enjoyment from others. And so yeah, it'll be into different degrees in all of us.
In the very first volume, very first canto, very first chapter, very first verse, very first purport of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very first book Prabhupada gave us. Towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, the entire world is moving on sex desire. Therefore, it is not unreal. Its reality is experienced in the spiritual world. And it's described in more detail in different places in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also.
Yeah, and that's the purified original sex desire where we serve Krishna and the material world is all about us. And then and then it just we have to purify the desire about who the enjoyer is. When we come to the realization that it's actually all about Krishna, then we are well situated. But yeah, with Brahma at this point, yeah, he has this low, well, not low, but it's kind of intense. And he was attracted by this person who came from him, so basically his daughter. And yeah, he's creating all these various entities, these different people, and Vak, his daughter, comes out from him, and he's attracted to her. And so at that point, the sages headed by Marichi, they start speaking, and it just earlier I noticed how they spoke with great respect. And even in the purport, Prabhupada saying that, yeah, here's Brahma, and Krishna came himself, and he spoke to him, and he gave him knowledge, like direct knowledge. So how could it be? Yeah, how could it be that somebody who saw God, not just saw God, what else did he do when Krishna spoke to him? All the philosophy, and then what did they do? Was that? Yeah, but more physical action. They shook hands. They shook hands. Yeah, they used to do it back in America. They agree on something that's shake hands. I don't think that's bad, but they shook hands. And so somebody who shook hands with God, how could such a person then have such a big incident, or like such struggle in spiritual life? That's a good thought.
Well, Brahma had prayed that two things: that he would never become proud from his service, and he really begged the Lord for that, and for not to allow him to become further conditioned by his service. And so there's a sense in which this is actually, it's a terrible thing that he does, and yet somehow it leads towards his humility and purification.
Yeah.
Because he gives up when it says he gave up his body, purports further along, Prabhupada says what this means is he gave up a certain mentality.
Yeah. What else? Any other thoughts?
Just to clarify, so the action that he did was only in thought.
Yeah, it was only in thought.
And did he speak words about it though?
Did he speak words?
Did he say like, "Hey, daughter"?
Sorry.
Yeah. I'm just asking because it's.
Yeah, did he act on it? That's the question. As far as I can see from the verses, he did not actually act on it, but his mind was attracted. And it's interesting because with Lord Shiva, he actually started chasing Mohini. He actually started chasing her. But with Brahma, it was just a thought. But still, because they're on such a platform that even thoughts matter a lot. And so that's why the sages under Marichi. How did the daughter come to know about it? I don't know. There's a more explanation later. Everyone say
that age, everyone had all kinds of mystic powers and were in touch with all the subtle energies around us. So they could probably just understand each other's thoughts almost at all times.
And generally, the way a person looks at another person, you can tell if someone's interested. And the sidelong glances start happening. I mean, even in today's age, our managers are trained to see if someone's attracted to somebody else. So So what to talk of? The sages from Satya Yuga, they definitely know what's going on just by how somebody looks at somebody. So that'd be my philosophical speculation. But yeah, but so they noticed that, and interestingly, they did not just condemn him right away. They still spoke to him with great respect, and they just told him this has never happened before. This will never happen later to any Brahma, and they requested him to control your sex desire. And in one of the purports, Prabhupada mentions that when they asked that, then Brahma was still a little hesitant actually. And the reason they were asking him was because he has such an important role. He has such an important role in the whole universe. He's the first being, he's supposed to set an example, and here he is having a struggle. And so, but even then Brahma was slightly hesitant. And then what did it do next after that? What the next verses? They pray to Krishna. They pray to Krishna that please, help. They say that let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, who by his own effulgence, while situated in himself, has manifested this cosmos. May he also protect religion for all goodness. So Dharma, So whenever one protects Dharma, Dharma protects them. So they're praying that yeah, may Dharma, may he protect religion, who can protect us, basically. And protect Brahma, Lord Brahma. And so for all of us also, whenever we have any narcissistic tendencies, when that 1/7 part of us comes up, and then we can pray to Krishna like, hey Krishna, I really don't know what to do with this, whatever it is, that with this anger, with this frustration, with this desire to just go all out and enjoy this world, whatever. Not that we can't enjoy this world, it's just we can, but we do that by serving Krishna. And whenever that happens, whenever we have any kind of struggle, actually prayer is so important. And showing by example here, actually pray to Krishna. And the Prabhupada talks about it that, yeah, if we really want to control our senses, then one actually has to pray. Yeah, the process of Bhakti Yoga is not a process of meditation or yoga or, or like, yeah, sometimes yoga is just doing all these different gymnastics to control our body and mind. That's not actually our process. The process is actually bhakti's devotion to Krishna, serving Krishna. And by doing that, then we actually are able to control our senses. And so that is the primary method in this, especially in this age of Kali Yuga, that one actually prays to Krishna and one surrenders. Because yeah, there can be different kinds of paths, right? There's the path of knowledge through jnana, there's karma yoga, the path of working, and so forth. And you can do all those things, but it does not really fully address the main reason why we're here, which is to deny Krishna's existence as a supreme person, and for us to put as the main guy. And so when it comes to Bhakti Yoga, it addresses that main factor why we are here. It addresses that fact that, yeah, we are not actually in charge. And it doesn't matter how many pious activities, how many charitable works we do, how many good things we do, relatively good things we do, or how much knowledge we have, or even if we know we are not this body, even all that does not matter if we actually do not come to the conclusion that actually we're supposed to serve Krishna and the devotees. And when we come to that conclusion, when we have that attitude of service, then Krishna actually enlightens us from within. It's not us who enlighten ourselves. It's not, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but you can still be a fool because of your actions. And we see that through Lord Brahma's example. The Vedas came from it. There is nothing in this universe beyond the Vedas. So the Vedas came from this person, and here he is somehow bewildered. And what's the solution? You pray to Krishna and be like, actually, I can't control my senses. I just, there's only so much a conditioned soul can do. And the main thing is that actually it's surrendering to Krishna. That yes, Krishna, you're in charge. You're in charge of me, my mind, my body, and just in charge of me. And Ramayana, Lord Ram says that. He says that if anybody comes to me and says, I'm yours, then he says, I'll protect them for forever. And so same thing here. Like when we just go to Krishna, we pray to the deities, like you're struggling with this or that or whatever it is, and Krishna will protect and Krishna will help. And so Brahma is like, and often it's always like that in the Bhagavatam. These great personalities often set an example for all of us to follow. And even Indra, who gets a lot of beating in the Bhagavatam for being really silly and getting all proud. But if you really look at his life, if you really reflect on it, he's just acting like how we do many times in our lives. And so I really like Indra's character in the Bhagavatam because he gets proud, he does stupid things. I'm like, oh, I do it all the time. It's actually about me. And so it's like that, same with Brahma here, he's having the struggle. So we can see, okay, what do? We pray to Krishna. And one other thing I was thinking was that it's so good that it is really helpful that Brahma had other people to tell him that he was in Maya. And here Marichi, I did say this, Marichi, they all came from him, but still they're able to, give him some honest feedback. And so it just goes to show how valuable it is to have an association of devotees, of people who are on the same path, who can actually give us support. That's what Brahma is getting right now. He's actually getting support. And so in this material world, there'll be all kinds of issues. People go through all kinds of emotions, and we were joking about falling the 2 eggs out of the 4 eggs this morning. So there will be points when people just struggle because spiritual life is not necessarily easy. It's simple. Actually, Prabhupada says that in Bhagavatam in the first canto. It's a simple process, but the implementation is hard, actually. And so, but what it takes is strength given by other devotees. When we have peers, we have seniors, we have juniors, and so that gives us a lot of strength. And then you're just depending on Krishna and trying to sincerely make progress. Krishna really cares about is how sincere we are. Krishna does not care about if our dhoti is well ironed or whatever it is, how our externals look. It's important, but at the same time, Krishna really cares about, do we sincerely want to make progress? Do we really sincerely want to say like, okay, I am actually at this stage and I really want to make progress, and I am not there yet, but I'm going to try my best. And that's what Krishna really cares about. And when Krishna sees that, then Krishna, he sends help. And when Krishna sees that somebody is there just to hang out and find fault with all the other devotees, then Krishna is like, all right, maybe it's time for you to let it go, and so that you don't really make offenses against other devotees, because that's the one thing that really hinders one's growth in spiritual life. When one is just totally narcissistic, like, oh, I know everything and nobody else knows anything, and that's it. So Krishna's like, all right, if you know everything, maybe just be by yourself. And so what it takes in spiritual life is having association, having other devotees, who can actually support us, and the blessings of the devotees, and just praying to Krishna, and Krishna from within actually clears our heart of all these various narcissistic tendencies, because that's what it boils down to. That's what it boils down to. That it's all about me and how I can just enjoy it and so forth. And so Brahma's being given this feedback, and then he takes it, and then he realizes that what I have done is so heinous actually, and then he just gives up his life, he gives up his body, even though he has a really long life. And Prabhupada talks about how when one is totally self-indulgent in this world, then it leads to reduction in one's wealth, one's prosperity, one's span of life. And the more one is regulated, more one is actually selfless and giving. One actually, even materially, one does better in life when that's the case. For to talk of spiritually, but when one is just totally self-indulgent, and you can see that even even in the regular world, when someone's just, really harming their body in different ways, they reduce their span of life, basically. Yeah, and other things in their life. They lose relationships, they lose wealth, and so forth. And but the saving grace is having relationship and friendships with other devotees, where when one is struggling, you can reveal your mind. You can tell, like, hey, I'm having this struggle, or I'm facing this obstacle, and you can reveal your mind, and they give you support, and they don't judge. They don't judge you about it. They're like, oh, what kind of person are you? Yeah, because because that's not what the sages with Mauritius, they didn't do that. They're like, what are you doing? You're bogus. They were stern about it. They were like, this has never happened before and will never happen before. They're pretty stern, but at the same time, they didn't just condemn it outright. And then they prayed to Krishna for it to help them. And so yeah, when Brahma realized it, he gave up his body. And so for us, we don't give up the body, but we try to give up that mentality that, yeah, this is for me to enjoy and so forth. And it's a process. It doesn't happen immediately. And sometimes we have to talk to devotees, like, or some of our friends, few times before we can, really come to our senses. And many times it takes a lot of prayers. And oftentimes in spiritual life, I feel like we go through similar struggles, but we realize more and more about it, and we grow more and more about it. Then, years go by, and we look back and think, oh yeah, so much has changed. I still might have the same issue, but I have so much more realization about it. I have so much more control of my senses and so forth. So it really is a labor of love, spiritual life. And in this material world, everything is a labor. Everything. Getting a degree is hard. Working at Whole Foods, is that easy? That's hard. And working at work is hard. Everything. Paying mortgage for 30 years is not easy. So there's so many things that are hard in this world. But if you actually put in labor for self-realization, then that's labor of love. That actually is something that will give fruits for not only this life but beyond, actually. And not just that, but that it actually gives us a certain amount of peace and happiness, the real happiness that is to be had, that everybody's running after. God gives us that. So yeah. So that is Lord Brahma's story and his example that he said. And despite this episode, Lord Brahma is still the spiritual master of Narada Muni. And Narada Muni is his exalted devotee, and so forth. And of course, the line of teachers comes from that. And oftentimes in our lives, sometimes we think of spiritual masters as like these people who have never made any mistake. They always had, the whatever it is, the right amount of everything, and they did the right things all the time, and they never had any guilt or shame or anything. But actually, you know, people do struggle, and even when one is on the spiritual path, even when one is as a spiritual authority, they might struggle actually. And for us, it means that for us it might mean that we give them support, or we are there for them, and so forth. So yeah, that was Lord Brahma's case. And oftentimes when in a church or a religion people are fanatic, then it means you're just like everyone's super heavy about everything. That's pretty much what the Hare Krishna movement was like in the 70s and 80s, from what I hear. But when a religion matures, then one understands that actually people will have struggles, and we have to see how to support them and so forth. And that's why Prabhupada, that's why he insisted on the varnashram system, to establish varnas and ashrams so that people can be peaceful and practice Krishna consciousness in the long run. And but the basis of an ashram is actually that people are situated, whatever they're doing, even if they're working outside in the regular world, they're well situated, and they have a community of devotees who can support them. That actually is the spiritual foundation for a spiritual community. And it's not just about farming. And sometimes we think varnashram is just about living off the land. That comes later, actually. Yeah. All right, I'm going to stop here. Any thoughts, comments, questions? Sophie and Sika? That's good.
I just had some thoughts. When we think about this topic of today's class, it's such a taboo topic, and I haven't done research on it or anything, so I'm just kind of speaking from my own thoughts. But of course, I'm sure modern scientists would argue we find it taboo because genetics can get messed up. So maybe modern scientists would say there's some sort of intuitive aversion we have towards it because it'll mess up the genetics. But beyond that, I think why it's so taboo is because if in the material world, we have these boundaries we set up. And family is the one thing that's considered, where some sort of maybe unconditional love can exist. So I think that's why it's so taboo, because deep down we know that these sexual drives and urges, it really involves a lot of exploitation. So I think that's why it's taboo, because your family is supposed to be that one group, this one little castle of defense where there can be something wholesome amidst this world that's filled with exploitation. Yeah. So of course, then when you get to a spiritual vantage point, as you were saying in your class today, then you can understand that, our family is actually way more extended. Everyone is our family, so we don't really want to exploit anyone, and it's exploitation in the sense that we're putting ourselves in the position of the enjoyer and kind of taking Krishna out of the picture. So whenever we pursue someone else in that context, we are necessarily taking Krishna out of the picture for them as well, and posing ourselves as the supreme, in one sense. So that's why I really like services where we help someone else with their relationship with Krishna. Yeah. Whether it's in a temple context with other devotees, helping them in their spiritual life, or whether it's people out there that don't know about Krishna. If you do any service where you're helping someone with their relationship with Krishna, then it's just so natural that you'll start seeing everyone's relationship with Krishna, and then it just becomes so much harder to have an exploitative mentality towards them. Let's take a break.
I think this was the best class I've ever heard you give. It's so nice. But I like this point about how the response of Brahma and all of the sages is to pray and to seek for the Lord's mercy and grace in the situation. I think often when, especially in the beginning, we think that we have to fix ourselves up first somehow before we actually begin to come to the Lord. And shame and guilt can actually motivate that kind of behavior. But actually, there's nothing that you cannot dovetail the relationship with Krishna, no matter what it is. You can always come to him, and the devotees for that matter. There's nothing that you cannot bring to him and ask him to fix or bless you or empower you, whatever it is. Shame and guilt are probably the most unproductive emotions one can have. It's better just to come to Krishna as you are, no matter what.
Yeah, I was reading in one of the Prabhupada says about how, Krishna is like our father, mother. Whatever, even if the child does something really egregious or stupid, there are criminals whose mothers are like, no, he did not do it, like they're yelling in the court, it's my son, there's no way. And he's clearly, has murdered a few people, and the mother's like, there's no way, it's my son. And so it's an extreme example. But for, for the parent, like the child is just so dear. So same way Prabhupada is saying, like for Krishna, like we are so dear that despite of our various failings, Krishna will correct us. He will correct us, but at the same time, he'll just never ever abandon, never ever give up like a loving parent. So yeah, it doesn't matter what you've done and so forth. And we still can just without any guilt or shame. We have some repentance for what we have done wrong, but without guilt or shame, we can still go to Krishna because Krishna is something. Your point?
That all the sages they advised Lord Brahma what to do. Although they came from his body, they could consider his junior. But still, like he actually like he was very humble to take their advice. That was I appreciated that Brahma's humor.
Alright, there's nothing else.
Yeah, on the same point that I was speaking about, there's this seminar called or is it a seminar or a course? I don't know. It's called The Right Use of Power, and there is described that a leader is responsible for getting feedback from the people that he cares for. So yeah, it was really nice to see how Lord Brahma like exemplifies that. You know, a tyrant leader would be like, I don't have to listen to you. I do whatever I want because you're below me. But yeah, he took the feedback, and yeah, it was really nice to see him.
Grant about donkey. Yagyashastasana santo vachate sarvagyavasha vinyate papa pachakara. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered for sacrifice. That is a prepared food blessings. Starving, burning. Are the conference down?